Do you dare to believe that right in the heart of America? There are people who have to dig through trash to survive. This is not a distant story from a slum or some other impoverished world, but it is Los Angeles, a city of 3 million people, once called the City of Angels, where people now quietly sift through bags of trash under the freeway to find scraps of food, a glimmer of hope to survive the night. In today's video, we invite you to lift the glamorous veil and see a Los Angeles that travel brochures never mention. A city that is no longer the paradise of angels, but is gradually becoming Lost Angeles, where the destitute feel lost amidst the bustling metropolis. And the American dream is just a faint shadow imprinted on the cracked asphalt. Los Angeles used to be the promised land, where people come to dream, to start anew, to build a future from scratch. But now, that very place is where thousands of people are losing everything, not just their homes, but also their faith in America, once called the City of Angels. Los Angeles is now a place where people survive by digging through trash. Each morning, before the sun has time to dry the thin mist clinging to the streets of Venice or Skid Row, hunched figures sift through bottles, tin cans, stale scraps, or anything that might be traded for a meal or a few coins. In a city where real estate values reach millions of dollars. That scene looks as if someone placed a shattered mirror between two worlds on one side. The gloss of the super rich, on the other. The scratches of collapse. There are more than 75,000 homeless people in Los Angeles County, a number that has surpassed the population of the city of Santa Monica. But what's even more frightening is the rate of increase in just a few years. That number has risen by nearly 10%. And among them, there are those who just a few months ago were still working, still paying rent, still sending their young children to school. A slip-up, losing a job, getting sick, an overwhelming medical bill, and everything collapses. There is no safety net to catch them, and they just keep falling into the depths of despair. Many long-time residents, those who once lived stably and contributed to building the community, now have to sleep in their cars or set up temporary tents on street corners. A woman shared. I used to be a project manager at Kinney Construction. My husband lost his job, and then it was my turn. I had to send my daughter to a friend, and we ended up on the street. I had to send my daughter to a friend, and we hit the road. You can hear it at every gas station, bus station, where families hide in the shadows to avoid being asked for their papers by the police. All of this is no longer fiction, but is gradually becoming a painfully vivid reality.
Every time I see the Dow Jones tick up another 1,000 points, I know that all these people in the bottom rung are going to drop off.
Ironically, while the economy is being praised for recovering, with GDP increasing and unemployment decreasing, those at the bottom are free-falling. Since 1980, the richest 1% have captured the majority of global income, while the lower half of the world has seen their share shrink to the point where there is almost nothing left to eat. Many people question, why don't homeless people try harder? But if you have ever witnessed people lining up for hours to get a spot in a shelter with only 6 beds, while the authorities are preparing to evict over 1,000 people from the Santa Ana River camp, you will understand that effort is not enough when the entire system no longer has room for you. Los Angeles is not collapsing because of an earthquake. It is fracturing into pieces. Every time a child starts their day with a meal scavenged from the trash, or an elderly person is chased out of the park in the middle of the night. And even more heartbreaking, when it happens long enough. Society will begin to get used to the injustice, familiar with the image of someone who used to work, used to pay taxes, used to live stably, now sleeping by the roadside. As if that is the new normal that America is silently accepting. If right in the heart of California, people have to dig through trash to survive, then is there anywhere safe enough to dream anymore? And if society begins to accept the sight of those who once paid taxes, who once built this city, now sleeping under the bridge, then who can still believe in the American dream? The wilted seedlings on the concrete floor. No words can more accurately describe the lives of homeless children in Los Angeles. These young beings who must grow up amidst makeshift tents, in dangerous shelters, or right on the scorching sidewalks in summer and the freezing ones in winter. They did not grow up with a complete childhood. Where they call home, it could be a car parked in an empty lot, a corner of a street by the freeway, or a shared room without a locked door at a shelter. Michelle Fronza, 17 years old, is living with her mother and 4 siblings in a shelter in the heart of Skid Row. Her family did not become homeless due to mistakes or wrong choices, but simply because they tried to escape a dangerous environment and then had nowhere else to cling to.
I can't help but wonder, how did this happen to us?
The small, cramped room, crowded with nearly 10 people. For a growing girl, that space was no different from a prison without bars. Things that seemed normal for a teenager, like cooking a late-night snack, listening to music alone, or studying in peace, suddenly became luxuries. And every night, Michelle and the children have to hold hands and walk to the bus station in a group, not to go anywhere, but to be safer, because around the shelter is a high-risk area, where in just a few blocks there are hundreds of people with criminal records. In a city that was once a symbol of opportunity, now turned into a dangerous maze where children are forced to learn how to survive, instead of learning how to dream. Michelle's story is not uncommon, specifically in Los Angeles County. It is estimated that more than 113 of the 75,000 homeless individuals are children, equivalent to the entire student body of a large school district. In a city once considered the capital of dreams, how could we allow children to live on the streets, becoming unpaid passengers left behind on the very train named Future? If we were once proud of an America where every child had the opportunity to rise, then this scene is a painful wake-up call. A country that abandons the next generation is a country dimming its own future. And then, if the seedlings today no longer have enough soil, enough light to grow, where will tomorrow's forest come from? There is a place in Los Angeles that still appears clearly on Google Maps, but no one wants that name to be present in their memories. That place is neither a tourist area nor a shopping street, and certainly not a film set. That is Skid Row, where shattered dreams huddle in tattered tents amidst the bustling streets. When walking through this area, you will see people living quietly amidst the sound of car horns and the glare of streetlights. No nameplates, no house numbers, just colourful tents, assembled from everything possible: plastic tarps, wooden planks, old blankets, trash cans. They don't hide in dense forests or deserts, they live right before our eyes, existing vividly to the point of heartache. Skid Row is not just a temporary shelter. It is a place where the forsaken souls of the system are deposited. By 2025, more than 3,800 people were living without shelter in this area, many of whom were once stable workers. But a single event, job loss, divorce, accident, illness, is enough to push them into the abyss. And when they slip off the social ladder, they fall straight into the dark zone without a rope to pull them back. The city once promised to solve the homelessness crisis, pouring billions of dollars into housing projects. But it seems that each time the budget is spent, the number of tents increases, not decreases. In the heart of Skid Row, people have begun to get used to the strange noises at night, the sound of tent zippers, the scuffles of those fighting over park benches, and even the sound of garbage trucks carrying away shattered dreams. Why do some people have to live like this? In one of the wealthiest cities in America, the people of Los Angeles frequently hear promises Skid Row will be cleaned up, more public housing will be built, trust will be restored. But if they only clean to appease public opinion without addressing the root cause, it's no different from covering an unhealed wound with a thin cloth, Skid Row is not a problem that needs to be erased. It is a wake-up call for a society that is suffocating the very class that once supported it. If those who once paid taxes, who built this city, now have to rummage through trash cans for dinner, then tomorrow, who among us can say we are safe? You can step out of a concert in downtown Los Angeles with a $300 ticket and just turn left down a small alley and see a woman rummaging through the trash, searching for cans and leftover food to survive the night. Two worlds, just a few steps apart. But on one side is the brilliant light of the American dream, while on the other side is the thick darkness of oblivion. This city used to be a place where people came to start over, to build a future from scratch. But now, that very place is becoming the endpoint for thousands of lives, not just losing their homes, but also losing the sense of belonging to America. On the streets where an art exhibition and a tent eviction are happening simultaneously, you will see a hierarchy without fences, because the boundaries lie in the eyes of passers-by. A mother takes her child to school, quietly passing by a child of the same age huddled under the post office awning. A bank employee waits for an Uber, right next to a veteran who is sleeping next to his cart. The city is like a movie constructed with two layers of imagery. The first layer is the glamorous surface, parties, film events, rooftop restaurants. The second layer is real life, full of silence, pain, and coldness, and day by day. The gap between those two layers not only widens but also becomes invisible, because those in the upper layer are learning how not to look down. The Los Angeles government has spent billions on support programs, but the number of tents continues to rise each month. They call it a state of emergency, but for many residents, it is no longer an emergency, it is the new normal. Something has changed from initial anger to prolonged resignation, and now indifference. When the abnormal persists for too long, it begins to feel familiar. And when a society begins to see it as normal for someone to sleep under a bridge, then the next question is, what will be the next normal? Los Angeles did not collapse overnight. It cracked little by little when those who once had jobs, once paid taxes, once raised children, were pushed to the margins. And if we no longer feel anything wrong when we see an elderly woman rummaging through trash next to a 5-star hotel, then what has died first, social morality or faith in America? There is a paradox quietly sinking Los Angeles. Those who once belonged to the middle class are now living in cars, temporary tents, or cramped rooms with strangers. They are not unemployed or failures. They just no longer have the ability to keep up with the ever-increasing cost of living. A one-bedroom apartment in Los Angeles now rents for an average of over $3,500 a month, while the income of many blue-collar workers hovers around that amount. That means just the rent alone consumes the entire income, not to mention food, gas, insurance, medicine, or raising children. A retired woman who used to work in a school shared, "I still receive a pension, but the rent has increased so much that I can't keep my apartment. I still receive a pension, but the rent is increasing so rapidly that I can't keep my apartment." And these words do not come from someone who has given up, but from a person who has dedicated their entire life to serving the community. Los Angeles now not only has the homeless, but also a borderline class, those who are temporarily housed, living in shared spaces, or always on the brink of crisis due to a medical bill, an accident, or simply a rent increase of a few $100s. And perhaps, what makes people saddest is that nowadays, the American dream in Los Angeles is no longer about buying a house, but just about having a quiet place to sleep overnight. So what has turned a city once praised as a paradise of opportunity into a place where even the hardest workers are gradually being pushed to the margins? If the middle class, the backbone of this society, is gradually falling from its former position, then who will still have the strength to keep America standing? If a home was once a symbol of stability and the efforts of American workers, then in Los Angeles today, that concept has become so luxurious that it's hard to believe. When rent prices exceed even income, and those still working full-time have to sleep in their cars, then home is no longer a place to return to, but something to be fought for every day. Imagine you work 40 hours a week, tirelessly dedicate yourself, pay taxes in full, but by the end of the month, you still don't have enough money to pay for a small room, just because the cost of living has far exceeded the average standard of living. A recent study shows that Los Angeles residents need to earn over $117,000 a year to afford rent without falling into cost burden, meaning they have to spend more than 30% of their income on housing. But in reality, more than half of the residents do not reach that income level. As a result, thousands of people, from recent graduates to retired seniors, are forced to seek temporary living solutions. An old RV parked by the roadside, a tent set up in the park, a motel room rented by the week. Even many people choose to sleep at gas stations, in their cars, or in 24/7 supermarket parking lots, places with lights and a feeling of less danger. And in the very city known for its million-dollar villas and glittering skyscrapers, there are thousands of people who have to curl up and sleep on the concrete floor, next to trash cans, right under the billboards of giant tech corporations. The construction industry is still developing. High-end projects continue to emerge, but most of the new apartments fall into the luxury segment, built to serve those willing to pay thousands of dollars each month, not for the locals struggling with basic living costs. Even housing support programs are being overwhelmed. Many people wait for years to have their applications approved. During that time, they have to make do with whatever options are left, whether it's sleeping under an overpass or asking to crash on a friend's couch. Home, once the beginning of everything family, safety, warmth, has now become the end point of many dreams. When a child cannot do homework because there is no study desk, when an elderly person cannot rest because they sleep on the back seat of a car, when a young couple has to choose between paying rent or caring for their child, then it is no longer just a housing crisis. That is a humanitarian crisis. And perhaps what troubles people the most is not the number of homeless individuals, but the fact that society has gradually become accustomed to it. The tent camps along the highway no longer catch anyone's eye. Those who sleep curled up on the sidewalks now seem invisible. If home is a place that everyone deserves to have, then Los Angeles is reflecting an America where that concept is being redefined, not by what people need, but by what the market is willing to sell. So when will we dare to ask the straightforward question, why? In one of the richest countries in the world, are there millions of people who cannot afford a place to be called home? Los Angeles was once seen as a mirror reflecting the American dream. But today, that city is becoming a miniature model of what could happen if America continues on its current path, where inequality deepens, the middle class is pushed down, and the welfare system can no longer support those who have contributed their whole lives. Look around Los Angeles. Right now, on one side are the mansions with high walls and dense surveillance camera systems. On the other side are rows of tents covered with tarps, electrical wires, and trash. On one side are luxury cars parked under palm trees. On the other side is a young mother just asking for an expired box of milk from the trash behind the store. That division is no longer a metaphor, it is a reality. And if anyone thinks this is just a story about Los Angeles, they are mistaken. Because what is happening here is just the beta version of a future that is quietly spreading across America. A lifestyle based on borrowing, an inflated real estate market, the exodus of businesses from urban centers, and lax policies protecting vulnerable groups. All are contributing to the creation of a society where anyone can fall from grace after just one incident. We used to live in an America where ordinary workers could still buy homes, raise children, and save for old age. But now, just losing a job for a few months or facing a serious illness can cause an entire family to fall to the bottom. Scenes that used to only appear in documentaries about developing countries are now happening right in the heart of a city considered the cultural, technological, and entertainment hub of the world. If even Los Angeles, with the third largest economy in the US, with tycoons, massive charitable foundations, and a huge creative industry, cannot solve the homelessness crisis, then which city can? And if America cannot protect its own people from living on the margins, then the American dream we once believed in, will it still exist? Los Angeles is not an exception. It is a warning signal. A future painted with strokes of indifference, helplessness, and disconnection. And if we don't stop to closely examine that painting, one day, it is very possible that the neighborhood you are living in will become a part of that scene. So what will need to change before this simulation becomes a comprehensive reality for the entire country? Los Angeles is no longer just a city. It is a vivid prophecy of what awaits America if we continue to turn our backs on the most vulnerable people. When 3 million residents share a space but live in completely different realities, the issue is not just about injustice, but about the fact that we are gradually getting used to it. The numbers about the homeless no longer shock anyone. The tents along the highway no longer cause controversy. Children sleeping in cars no longer appear on the primetime news. But if a nation starts to see pain as normal, what else can wake us up, Ikey? Will we accept living in a country where the American dream is only for those who can afford to buy that dream, while the rest have to scavenge to survive? What do you think about the homelessness crisis in Los Angeles? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel and stay updated with our latest videos. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. This video is created to analyze and reflect a real slice of life in Los Angeles, with the aim of sparking reflection and positive dialogue within the community. All information, images, and data are illustrative, cited from public and reliable sources. We do not hold any individual or organization responsible, nor do we draw absolute conclusions. Viewers are encouraged to approach the content with an open mind and continue exploring from various perspectives.